Well, thank you, Chair Murray, Ranking Member Braun, and thank you to Ms. Kodegal for being here today, for your willingness to serve. Appreciate that. I want to get right into it and talk about gender bias in STEM. And as a former computer programmer who began my career in a male-dominated field and co-chair of the Women in STEM caucus, I understand the challenges women face in pursuing and succeeding in STEM careers, particularly when women still make up only 28% of the STEM workforce. According to a recent article published by students in the University of Nevada, Reno's Women in Science and Engineering cohort, nearly two-thirds of women and more than three-quarters of black women in STEM reported experiencing what is known as the prove it again gender bias, where men are hired or offered advanced opportunities based on their potential, while women are hired or promoted based on their current performance or past experience, past success. So, Ms. Kodegal, if confirmed, how will you address this issue, particularly as it impacts pay disparity and discrimination? And how might you approach cases before the EEOC where allegations of gender-based pay and promotion disparities, particularly in these historically dominated, male-dominated fields?
Thank you, Senator. I come from a family of physicians, of scientists. My mother and my sister are both physicians, and so have learned about the challenges that women face in STEM in my family's own life. I think that many of the challenges for women in STEM come down to issues of stereotyping, and so I think there are important opportunities to do education and outreach both to workers and to employers about what does it mean to identify the skills that it actually takes to do these jobs and to ensure that advancement is anchored in those actual skills as opposed to, as you say, the sort of obligation to prove it again. I think there's an important role for enforcement here as well to identify areas where women are facing challenges in STEM employers and to look for opportunities to address those discrimination issues through litigation or conciliation.
I look forward to working with you on that. I want to move on to addressing anti-Asian hate and violence in the workplace, another huge issue facing us, particularly over the course of the pandemic. We have seen a rise in crimes and reports of bias-motivated harassment against Asian American, Pacific Islanders, our AAPI communities, our AAPI-owned businesses. They've also been targeted for discrimination, including in Nevada, which is home to some of the one of the fastest-growing AAPI communities in the country, and more than 21,000 Asian-owned businesses. And so, if confirmed, how do you think you can help address this increase in anti-Asian workplace violence?
This is a tremendously serious issue. I think it requires attention to enforcement with respect to instances of workplace violence that impact Asian American communities. I also think that there is a really important role for outreach in non-English languages here to ensure that the EEOC is able to reach the communities that are most impacted, whether they are English-speaking or not. I would want to, if I'm so fortunate as to be confirmed, look closely at that issue and work with advocates in the AAPI community on what they believe they need to get at the root of these problems.
Thank you. I appreciate that, too. And in the minute I have left, we'll just move on. Speaking of the pandemic and how it relates to anti-Asian hate and other issues, we have long COVID-related disabilities, again, affecting people in the workplace. More than 81 million Americans have been diagnosed with COVID-19. So many more cases, of course, not gone uncounted. And most estimates suggest that between 10 and 30% of confirmed COVID patients might experience long COVID symptoms after recovering, even if they really weren't very sick in the first place. So this problem is going to continue to threaten or impair many Americans' ability to work, and we're still trying to learn how to deal with this. And so does long COVID, will it be considered a disability under the ADA if they substantially limit somebody's physical ability? And so when we think about the ADA, how should we handle how do you think we might handle the increase in cases as we begin to define long COVID?
It is an issue that I think is still evolving, as you say. I see there being sort of two areas that will require the Commission's attention. One is to ensure that workers returning to the workplace, facing long COVID, understand what their rights are to seek accommodations as needed. And second, as I've said, I believe that most employers are working to get it right, but ensuring that employers know how to engage with workers in the interactive process and what constitutes reasonable accommodations, I think are really important pieces of this. These are certainly, I would say, ongoing problems in need of creative strategies and need of creative solutions. I think there are probably also opportunities to work across agencies on this issue, as I think this issue will bear on access to technology and a variety of other things.
Yeah. Thank you so much. My time is up, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome.